All right, we are live again here at MRPA 2025. That's the Mississippi Recreation and Park Association annual meeting in Natchez, Mississippi. And Sara is joining us from Fort Myers, Arkansas.
Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Fort Smith, Arkansas. And y'all held y'all's association's meeting, was that a couple years ago?
It was, and the next 2 years will actually be here in Fort Smith.
Yeah, beautiful city if you haven't been in Arkansas. That's got to be one of the larger cities.
We are the third largest.
What's the population there?
Right at 90,000.
Yeah, and you'll have a beautiful little downtown, historic. So if you ever get a chance, if you're in that neck of the woods in Arkansas, stop by and you can see Sara's beautiful park that she's got going on. She has got a great story, so much unique abilities she has over there, and she's got a great topic that she's passionate about. But I wanted to start off, Sara, with you just telling us all the way back to when you were in high school, kind of what you were as a high school student, so that high schoolers, especially juniors and seniors that are trying to map out what they want to do with their life, their career path, maybe they can kind of see themselves in you back then and where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Parks and Rec definitely wasn't a career field I even thought of. To be honest, I didn't even know it was a career. I thought it was just something that's there, and I guess it magically was maintained for everything. In high school, I was dead set on being a teacher, middle school, junior high teacher, and I went through it, got my bachelor's in middle level education. And, graduating in December, there's not many teaching jobs that are open because it's mid-year. And before that, I had actually ran the Ferris wheel for our local Parks and Rec department. So I was still doing that, and I knew the director and some of the staff there, and they had an opening for entry-level accounting technician, answering phones and processing bills. And for me, I thought I'd be there just for a few months. And, I just kind of fell in love with it and saw what Parks and Recreation is all about. And I just stuck with it. I said, no, I don't want to teach anymore, which I guess kind of it's a good thing that I said that. And, for me, I really had a fast track career, I guess, because I started in 2014, entry level, and then moved up within less than a year to our recreation programmer. And then less than a year after that, in 2016, deputy director. And now here I am entering my second year as director. So Parks and Rec definitely was not a career path for me, but I ended up here and I love it. And I'm fortunate that I get to be here and promote Parks and Rec throughout the city and also make it on a larger stage.
Now, I want to see if you could say a little bit more about, you hear people say in Parks and Rec that they get to make a difference, you get to leave a legacy, get to make an impact in your community. But can you give us a little more color around that?
Absolutely. So I'll give an example because this is something that's not just special to me, but also our maintenance staff and our office staff. I think what's important with Parks and Rec, I guess we're kind of the black sheep, so to speak. We're funded by the general fund. So whenever budget cuts come, it's always Parks and Recreation that gets, hey, you have to cut more because you have police and fire. And for us in our department, we really focus on public service motivation. Because, we can't always give raises, but if we can show our staff the impact they make to our community, then that's the intrinsic reward that you really can't teach, but you can show them that value. So I'll give our Holiday Express event. We have a miniature train at one of our parks. It's also where my office is located, and we have all of these lights. And for opening night, we have every single staff member there. And one thing they talk about, it's not the big crowd. We have over 10,000 opening night, and it's not so much the work that goes into it, but they like to flip their switches and see the smiles on the people's faces, which that's my favorite part. But some of them, as soon as you flip that light, they can go, but they all like to stay and see the citizens enjoy what they worked so hard to provide. And I really think that's where it is whenever you can just see the citizens enjoy it, because the work that goes into it, but you can do all the work, but if your citizens aren't enjoying it, then your work, you weren't successful. But I know if I'll have a bad day, any of us will just go out in a park and see someone enjoying a playground. Maybe they're walking around a trail, shooting back some hoops on a basketball court. That's what it's all about, getting to see people really engage with what you're working hard to promote and maintain.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess you're really witnessing people taking ownership and feeling that sense of pride in their community, but you get to see it real time happening every day.
Yes, I'm
And that,
very proud of our staff and them recognizing that. I think it's
yeah.
not sometimes people, Parks and Rec or maintenance staff, they're entry level positions. But whenever you can get them on board and really teach them and show them what their job actually means and how it benefits the community, it makes everything so much better. There's good atmosphere in the workplace, but it also pushes them to do their job, maybe not meet minimum expectations, but go the extra effort, go the extra mile because they see the impact it has.
Hmm. And do you think that's responsible, that I guess that fulfillment, that sense of impact, that could be the responsible for the low turnover rate in Parks and Rec? It seems like people just stay forever, and they just. I've met so many people that are here for 20 years, or they've replaced somebody that was here for 20, 25 years.
Absolutely, I do because a lot of jobs you really don't get to see that as up close as you're maintaining a park for our maintenance staff or even our office staff. You really don't have that direct contact in some situations and some jobs, but for us, we have lifers is what we call them. And of
Hmm.
course, you do have some that come in here, it's a stepping block and we train them and then they go forward in another department within the city, but to have that buy-in and probably 80% of our staff have been here 5+ years, and it's all because of the atmosphere we've built and showing them the impact they have.
Yeah. Now, I wanted you to go over the topic as far as you had said inclusiveness versus accessibility. Can you maybe start off by just defining those two terms um, for the audience so that they understand it somewhat at the depth that you do?
Yes, so broadly speaking, we'll start with accessibility. That goes back to the Americans with Disabilities Act. Basically, that says you can gain access to something. So, Parks and Rec, you can gain access to a facility, access to a walking trail, access to a playground. And of course, that's all that the federal requires, just access to. And whenever you start looking at inclusive design, you have to think, okay, they can get to it, but how can we allow them to engage? And inclusivity is all about usability of something. So that's kind of accessibility, access, and inclusivity, usability is a pretty easy way to
Okay.
describe that.
And then how would you say one versus the other?
Yeah, so sorry, you paused up there. Can you repeat
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
last part?
Yeah, as far as you had said that they somewhat contradict one, or when you're designing these parks, um, who are the people that you're looking to? Because a lot of times when I think of accessibility and inclusiveness, I'm thinking of maybe the wheelchair. But what are some
Yes.
other to kind of broaden that a little bit more for everyone thinking about park design?
Yes, so absolutely what you said, we kind of have this cognitive bias when we think of accessibility or any kind of handicap, we automatically go to a wheelchair. Well, that's just one specific kind of disability. You have to think of cognitive, emotional, social, auditory, visual, and I kind of go back to one of my friends. She has two children that have autism, and one thing, whenever she knew I had the job and we were designing parks, it was, well, what about my child? My child likes to run off and they really can't use our playgrounds. So, something as simple as addressing that elopement issue where kids do run off, and it's not just a child with autism, it's also just everyday kids enjoying the park. And something as simple as putting up a fence. It's relatively inexpensive investment, but it gives the parents freedom to allow their child to engage with others. And also the child, they can run around because they're not going to go out to a street. They're not going to run out and away from the parents. And it's just really looking at that. And of course, anytime you're designing something, you cannot address every single ability of everyone, but if you can do the most that you can and know that you invested in that and you really tried to accommodate as many as possible, that's whenever you're really saying, okay, parks are for everyone. They're not just for everyone to come to, but they're for everyone to engage with each other while they're there.
Yeah, I love that message. And thank you for sharing that depth with us, because I think a lot of us don't realize the thought and the process that goes into, creating a playground and everything, all the, because you're really thinking about the whole community, not just the ones that can just play sports and stuff, but even like the elderly, the youngest little kids, the handicapped children, and then all the different other disabilities. We want them all to be able to use this common space. And I love that y'all are starting to really think about the entire community there. So that's
Yeah, and I
fantastic.
think, kind of going to the NRPA conference this past one, I think Fort Smith is unique because our community, both citizens and our board, they understand the difference between accessibility and inclusivity. And kind of talking to the other Parks and Rec professionals at NRPA, their board and their administration is so set on accessibility that there's really that divide. And I think we're fortunate because we're able to be a pioneer in that field and show them what it is. So I think that's important. A lot of people, they just focus on accessibility because that's where their administration is. And it's unfortunate, but inclusivity, it does cost more up front, but it's definitely a worthwhile investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank y'all so much for pioneering that for the whole country. Um, Now we're going to take a little break to showcase a video that our video editors for the Daily Parks and Rec show made for high schoolers considering, getting ready to go into college, getting ready to consider what career path they want to go into. And so this is um, for those that may not know that Parks and Recreation is absolutely a great and awesome career that you can go to school for. But then, Sarah, I'd like you to speak a little bit about maybe you can just come straight into Parks and Rec, like your superintendent and others that you've been around.
Absolutely. So our staff, no one, including myself, has a degree specific to Parks and Recreation. They've all started from the ground up and worked their way. And whenever I was in pursuit of hiring a deputy director, I love getting out in the field. I hate being in my office. This is kind of odd for me right now. But seeing that you need someone who has field experience, knows what your line level workers actually do and what you can do with how you can best accommodate them and advocate for them to get the tools and resources they need. I looked at it as me and I fought HR on it. I said, my deputy, I don't need someone with a degree. For me, education, it's absolutely important. I have 2 masters. I'm finishing my doctorate this fall, but you do not have to have a true education to be successful in Parks and Recreation. So I actually won that fight with HR and I said, listen, they can have a piece of paper all day long, but I need someone who actually knows what they're doing and can relate to the staff. And again, I say that as someone who has multiple degrees, but at the end of the day, you get a lot of field experience by being out there and actually engaging. And to me, that was more important with how our environment is and atmosphere within our department.
Now, what's some high school when you talk about experience? And I love that message, by the way, that experiential knowledge is unbeatable. It is the best knowledge. It beats book knowledge, video knowledge, hands-on experience, whatever. When you just go out and do something, there's that's where all the wealth of knowledge truly is. All the little devil in the details kind of stuff. But how can you get, as a high schooler, exposure to Parks and Rec? Um, Tell us about the summer programs that are offered in Parks and Rec, and maybe what y'all offer over at your place.
Yeah, so the easiest thing, when people think Parks and Rec, they think mowing. So, absolutely, if you think you want to go into the maintenance area, apply to be a seasonal laborer to mowing. I know we do, but most other Parks and Rec organizations, they'll accommodate your schedule. Like if you're playing football at school or something, kind of schedule around your practices. And then we have lifeguarding positions. You can eventually move up to be assistant pool manager or pool manager one day, and we manage a miniature golf course. This is actually going to be our first year managing it. We used to lease it, just concession experience. You can do that. And then another area that Art Fort Smith, we don't have this, but I know other cities, they have rec centers. And that's whenever you can get involved in youth coaching, refereeing, just anything, having programs for students, maybe even you're helping with adult programs, just starting there. Because I think once you get there, and if your mind clicks, going back to the public service motivation, you'll realize this field is for you. But until you have that real world experience, it's really hard to see the impact Parks and Recs makes.
I ended up, the only job I ever had was I was 15 years old cutting grass for the Parks and Rec. But then I had so many great experiences with camp counselors. I looked up to them because I was really young. They were high schoolers. And to me, they were, when someone's in high school and you're like in grade school, these guys are awesome. And that really ignited a desire in me to be a mentor. And I started a mentorship program that helped college kids come into it. And all that mentorship desire came from my experience at Parks and Recreation, when they would use these high school camp counselors for like the little 5th to 8th graders. And I was one of them. So that was really cool. Okay, so we're going to show this little commercial, and then Sarah's got some other stuff I wanted to go over with us. Let's go ahead and let me find this one real quick. My mouse does not want to cooperate. There we go. Okay. All right.
Imagine a career where you can shape communities, create lasting memories, and leave a generational legacy. Welcome to the world of Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation professionals across America are shaping their communities, one park, program, and project at a time. This career is more than just a job. It's an opportunity to leave a lasting legacy, improve lives, and help future generations thrive. If you're looking for a career that's both challenging and fulfilling, Parks and Recreation is it. You'll be creating programs, managing projects, and making a meaningful impact every day. Make an impact. Leave a legacy. Parks and Recreation, a career that makes a difference.
All right. So thank you to our video content creators that work full-time for the daily Parks and Rec show. We're always trying to create something like that the industry can use to just promote it. And we've got a lot of other stuff coming out for maintenance, for superintendents. And so just be on the lookout for that. So that's kind of our latest, because we feel like that's a really big need, is just to raise awareness about the industry to the high school age group, so that you're not discovering it down the road, that you've have a passion for Parks and Rec. All right. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your educational path, because I love how you're defending the people without a degree, but then you can ready to finish up your PhD. I'm so happy that because traditionally when people are like yourself that have a PhD, they're the only way to do stuff is through college and stuff. And so I like how you have you are one, but at the same time you're defending those, that hey, if you got the goods, if you have that experience, that's what we really need here at the parks.
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier, my bachelor's middle level education. But it's kind of funny you mentioned the whole Parks and Rec degree, and then here, when I started at our Parks and Recreation department, the director at the time, I've been through 2, I'm the 3rd since I've been here, but I said, I want to continue my education. And I said, I'm looking at a Parks and Rec degree, a master's program, and he goes, I don't think that's a good fit for you. I was like, okay. He said, why don't you try a master's in public administration? Because that's much more broad, because Parks and Rec, you can get the field experience there, but a master's in public administration, it'll really broaden your scope and your skill set. And I know that kind of sounds like I'm saying, oh, you don't need a Parks and Rec degree. That is absolutely not the case. I think it's an individualized piece. For me, he kind of saw that I wanted to advance in my career, and where I was, because I already had the bachelor's, public administration made the most sense. And I don't know, I love school. I absolutely love school. So after I finished that, kind of bringing my family into this, my mom actually works in finance for the city. She's the contract and bond specialist. So I've always grown up around finances. And Fort Smith, we have our parks department has a dedicated sales and use tax that we have to manage and kind of say, well, we can't bid all of our projects out. We have to wait and see where that sales tax comes out at, and also plan for contingencies. So then I went and got a graduate certificate in public budget and finance. From there, I originally went to start my doctorate, but I ran across another master's program at Kentucky. If anyone needs public financial management, it's a master's, and you're looking for that, especially Parks and Rec, budgeting and everything, that I 100% say go do that program. And after I finished that, I found a doctoral program. I think there's only 2 or 3 that are actually online, and I'm enrolled in that. And, Parks and Rec knowledge, do I get that from those programs? No. However, everything I do, every assignment we have, that's where I incorporate my field experience in Parks and Rec and really apply that to everything I'm learning in those programs.
That's fantastic. And I love how, I'm trying to recall, someone had an accounting background, and it's amazing how they use the organizational part of accounting, and they brought that in the part. Now they're the director of Parks and Recreation. But I think it's good to have the diversity of knowledge in all different disciplines and stuff, and bring that into Parks and Recreation. So I think that's a good message. Not to discredit the actual Parks and Rec degrees that are out there, but I think any education that's going to be useful to you, because really you can think about all the different jobs in Parks and Recreation. Your whole staff. What are the variations of jobs that y'all have in Parks and Rec, aside from just obviously the director, which is what you are? But what are your support staff look like?
Yes, so we're pretty small in the office area. We have one administrative coordinator that fields most of our phone calls, processes bills. Then we have a community center staff that take care of, and it's one person that does the bookings, reservations in all our facilities. And then we have one other person that does our large events, like the large community events we have at our different facilities and parks. So that is it for our office staff. We run a little crazy, but that's okay. And then we have some part-time facility workers that actually oversee the bookings, have people show them their room, help them set up, take down, clean up after that. We have our lifeguard staff there, and I think we're about to get really busy there because we have a big project going on right now, renovation. And then, of course, the concession workers that go along with that. And then the majority of our staff is actually maintenance, because Fort Smith, we are unique. We don't have a rec center, so we don't have that in our program. So most of it is maintenance.
Now, how much of your, and I guess every town's different than, but how much of your work or mind is wrapped around building something new, or launching a new project, or having like a sports complex that's got, if it's a 5-year plan, how much of your, and is it just you? I'm assuming there's a few other your staff members, or what does that look like?
Yes, so you have really good timing. So as far as sports facilities, I think not next week, the week after, that actually does not fall in the lap of our department. Of course, I was on the steering committee for it, but that's our Convention and Visitors Bureau that came up with that. But as far as our capital improvement plan, again, Fort Smith, we're fortunate to have that dedicated sales tax that can only be used for capital projects. And we're really big on investing in what we already have and making sure that is in top condition before we expand. I think we kind of lost that a few years ago. But with that and making improvements on what we have, I could sit here in my office and say, well, I like that park best. We're going to do that. But at the end of the day, it's not me that is at those parks every single day. It's my maintenance staff. So I actually rely on them to bring the main issues to me and how we can balance those, but also the demands of the citizens and city administration and what they want their priorities to be, but also pulling in the maintenance staff who really know what they're talking about and what absolutely has to be addressed, not something we like because it's near our house. So it's really a collaborative effort, but really the public only sees me pitching the idea, but that is certainly not the case. We have all of our staff get in that. We have a Parks and Rec commission. Then it goes to me to make an ultimate recommendation to administration and then our board of directors.
Hmm. Now, I wanted you to close out with this one. We had a little discussion around trying to describe the what is it unmonetizable value of Parks and Rec, because a lot of times, when you're asking for money, you're asking for funding, and these are huge capital projects, a lot of money laid out for these. A lot of people are wanting to know, well, what's the economic impact? But outside the economic impact, what are we talking about here that really, hits home for people as a reason to fund these projects?
The pandemic helped us. It did, because before parks, they were just something you passed by and your kids saw, hey, I want to go there. But with the pandemic and people not being able to use traditional means of entertainment and recreation, like a private club or anything, it really shifted the focus to municipal parks and public
Mhm.
parks that everyone can go to. And I think once they realize the impact it can have, and it's something free you can do, it really shifted towards parks. They don't make money unless they're constructed to make money, which ours don't make money. That's not how we're built. And they saw that value and they saw kind of like what we do. We see everyone enjoying the parks and our amenities that we provide. People saw that, not just other people, but they're actually their families going in there, and it became a personal, like that intrinsic value. And then they put, I guess, two and two together, and that's what parks are about, giving someone family recreation opportunities, not just for them but for everyone. And
Mhm.
that has a big part of why our sales tax got renewed and extended, because people realize we're not here to make money. We're here for the betterment of the community, to help promote a healthy lifestyle, give free recreation opportunities. And I think that's where it goes back to. If you can ever get people away from, well, you're not bringing in money. Well, no, you're correct. If you look at, they're not paying $5 to come to the park. But with Fort Smith, we've made all these improvements and we have people coming hundreds of miles away, bringing their kids, schools on a field trip to Fort Smith because of all the progress we've made. And with that, they're having to eat, they're traveling, they're probably going to gas up before they go home. So we do have an economic impact, but it's not that big number you see with
Mm,
a stadium or anything. But I think
right,
our city, our citizens, we finally realize that.
right. And it really is about quality of life. I'm glad we're starting to hear a lot of that in our speech. It seems like we're starting to hear that quality of life term everywhere. And what does that mean? And I love how, or maybe describe how parks are in the center of this quality of life in your community.
We talk about a lot about physical activity. And of course, that's something parks absolutely advocate for and allow. But I think also going to mental health, you can just go in a park and you can be free, walk around anything. You have calming areas, you have sanctuary garden spaces, you can go on a nature trail, anything, and you might not realize it, but just going to those and being in an open space where you don't have to be bothered with your phone going off every 2 seconds or people interfering with you, it plays into your mental health, which kind of leads you to want to be active and really look at recreation. And then also, whenever you pass by people, it's about friendliness and interacting with people that you otherwise wouldn't do. And it's kind of hard to define quality of life when you're not really certain what that means, but I think sometimes people don't realize it. But if you ever can get it clicked in their mind that that is what quality of life does and that is parks and recreation, then I think you're on the right path. And I certainly think we're there in the Parks and Recreation field right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to close on that message, because this is what Parks and Rec is all about. I love that we're ending on something that's not so what's the economic impact, but rather how is this impacting our lives and making it a higher quality that we want to live in these communities. So appreciate all the work that you're doing, Sara. Please thank everyone at your Parks and Rec department for the work that y'all do improving y'all cities. And that goes out to anyone in Parks and Rec, whether you're a grass cutter or just a high schooler doing a camp. You're making a difference in some little kid's life or some grandparent's life. And we love the work y'all are doing. So big shout out and thank you to everyone in Parks and Rec. And thank you to MRPA for hosting us at the 2025 convention. I will do my best to make it up to the Arkansas convention right before the NRPA convention. And hopefully, you're going to be attending the
Arkansas? Will.
Okay, fantastic.
You can also meet my deputy. I'm making him go with me. It'll be his first time.
Oh, love it. I'd like to meet everyone. What city is it in this year?
It is in Fort Smith.
Oh my gosh.
Next 2 years. So you have to come. I can show you all about our parks.
I love it. We'll do a grand tour then.
Yeah.
Well, Sara, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it. And this will be uploaded to YouTube. It's live right now on X, but as soon as they finish the thumbnail, I'll send it out to you. That way you can share it with your friends and family if you like.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the work you do, and thank you for coming on to the show.
All righty. Bye.
All right.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. As Craig LeBlanc from the Daily Parks and Recreation Show says, parks and recreation aren't just spaces, they're the soul of our communities. Across America, parks provide more than just a scenic escape. They're places where people connect, stay active, and create lasting memories. Parks promote physical health with trails, sports fields, and playgrounds while boosting mental well-being through the calming effects of nature. Recreation programs bring communities together, offering everything from fitness classes to cultural events. And as Craig often highlights, parks also play a key role in protecting the environment and driving local economies by attracting visitors and increasing property values. Whether it's a family picnic, a weekend hike, or simply enjoying the outdoors, parks and recreation are where life happens. Want to dive deeper into the stories behind America's parks? Tune in to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show with Craig LeBlanc for inspiring insights, tips, and updates about the spaces that bring us all together.